Sorry, this is not going.
We've met. We met in Cape.
Yeah, in Vulindlela. Yeah.
So Ronnie, Jackie is like my speech twin.
I knew it.
Everyone looks the same. No, not physical, it's like speech. I just got more grey there. No, check here.
You wish. You wish. Look at this one.
How was yesterday,
No, it was good. What is that? Excellent.
Who's going to run it? Who's going to run it?
City power.
Then we build all of these things and then who's going to keep them?
I know. Open and close. Yeah.
Wait, are you guys actually going to put synchronized buttons?
Kind of. The whole infrastructure, the whole shanties, we need
But
it.
they don't have vehicles to collect. They don't have staff to manage it. There's no OPEX, there's only CAPEX.
No, once you get a little show them how it's done.
So how are they going to need this? Are they going to budget for some OPEX? No,
Not yet.
Where do we sit here? Sit on the
esteemed colleagues, honourable participants, a very, very warm welcome today. Thank you for being here, and thank you for joining us. Over the next day and a half, we will have the privilege of accompanying you through a beautifully and carefully created and curated program. I am Alana Potter. I'm the sanitation specialist at the South African Local Government Association.
And my name is Diale Lodi. I'm the urban planning expert at UN Habitat South Africa.
And together we hope to not only support you through this process, but also ask you to bring your most curious self. We're looking at being brave, we're looking at innovation, we're looking at trying new ideas. We're going to go through lessons, we're going to go through innovations, we're going to go through case studies. We're going to learn from the best in terms of civil society, communities, national, provincial and local government, political and administrative leadership, academics, across sectors in local government, human settlements, water and sanitation, planning. It's an extremely exciting moment. And so bring your curious self, bring your questions, bring your contributions, and hold your space. Remember, importantly, to bring your actions, because that's what we want out of this.
You know, Alana, I think I want to enjoy program directing with you. We bonded quite nicely before the session, so I think it's going to be a great day. There's a question that it's a piece that mails out that he asked when we were being introduced to him in the holding room. And the question was, what's the difference between an MC and a program director? Who knows the difference? Okay, so on that light note, colleagues, we're not going to waste a lot of time. As you can see, we're running almost an hour late. So we're going to get into it very quickly, but what's important for us is to really engage the topic of the symposium. And the key word for me is that word, advancing innovative solutions. And the point here is the solutions to the challenges that we've been facing for a long time, years ago, can't be the same solutions that we're looking at today. Not in the age of AI, not in the age of climate change and so on. So what we are hoping for is that as the experts in the room and as our political principles, you will take us into a journey of these fantastic innovative solutions to challenges that we are facing on water efficient and sanitation in the 21st century. That's what we are hoping for. Alana, back to you.
Thank you very much. I believe this is where we are going to have an official opening with the national anthem.
Yes. But I think I can try.
We can give it a go. Any volunteers to join us? We should be watching a safety video any minute.
Welcome to the Development Bank of Southern Africa. Kindly ensure your phone is on silent. Please note that no food or drinks are allowed in the auditorium. Water and station points are available at the entrance. Your safety is our top priority. In the event of an emergency, please remain calm and attentive. Audio instructions will be provided via the public address PA system. Follow all instructions and directions from protection services, personnel, or evacuation marshals. In this building, there are 4 emergency exit doors. In the event of an emergency, use the nearest exit to leave the auditorium. Follow the green and white overhead emergency signs leading to the emergency exit doors and evacuate the building immediately. Protection services personnel stationed at the entrance are your point of contact in case of an emergency. Once outside, proceed to the designated assembly point. At the assembly point, follow the instructions of the evacuation team lead. The evacuation marshal will conduct a roll call to account for everyone using the daily register. If any colleague or visitor is unaccounted for, report this immediately to the evacuation marshal. Do not leave the assembly area until you are advised that it is safe to do so. The evacuation team lead will confirm when it is safe to return to the building. In the case of a medical emergency, always remain calm. Contact the occupational nurse practitioner from our DBSA on-site clinic immediately on 0113133029. If the patient is critically hurt, an occupational nurse will come to VA and attend to the patient. Your safety is our top priority. Thank you for helping us maintain a safe and secure environment. Welcome to the
that you just scan through those at your own leisure, just to try and manage time. That's the second point. The third one, with the exception of the executive mayor, we're going to ask all the other speakers to please be as short as possible, so that we can try and catch up on the time that we have lost. Those are just a few, I think, issues on my end. Alan?
Thank you very, very much. And with great excitement, let's begin. And we'd like to start out with the welcome from the DBSA Group Executive, Ms. Vulindlela Msingani. You're most welcome, ma'am, and we're very excited to have you.
I'm here to welcome you. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Executive Mayor, NEC for Human Settlements, City Mayor, NEC, the whole of Johannesburg officials, officials from the Department of Water and Sanitation, our partners in the Water Research Commission, and other partners that are joining us today. A very warm and hearty welcome to the Development Bank of Southern Africa. I Our CEO is on a well-deserved rest or leave, so therefore it was left to me to welcome you this morning. Program directors, I'm not going to be long at all, except to just point out that in South Africa, which is a water scarce country, in the time of climate change, as you've mentioned, program directors, at a time when in every country, particularly our country, we have increased urbanization as people are looking for economic opportunities in the cities. The use of water is under pressure, and our sanitation infrastructure equally coming under the same pressure. You've already pointed out, Program Director, that in the time of AI, and I dare say better engineering solutions, we should be using less and less water. Well, I've cheated. I've already done my tour in the exhibition hall, and I am blown away, at what the engineers, the scientists, I'm also a scientist, are doing nowadays. Less water, in some cases no water at all. And in actual fact, for a moment, when they told me that the solids from our bodies can be used as fertilizer, I was hesitant. And then I realized this is from my own body. So then I accepted that indeed it can be used in that way. And of course the technology to make sure that it is safe in terms of the health before it is reused. As the Development Bank of Southern Africa, you know our mandate. It is to finance infrastructure and to restore people's dignity and to support the economic development of our country. With that, we were then given the task of hosting the Water Partnership Office, which is in part why you are being hosted here on behalf of the city of Johannesburg. I've only been at the bank for 5 months. This is my 6th month as the group executive for programs, and also in that division hosting the Water Partnership Office. What has broken my heart, many things have made me happy at the bank. I'm very, very happy to be here. But what has broken my heart, Executive Mayor, MMC, is seeing us not drawing down fast enough on the financing facilities that we have as a bank. For me, our citizens will not forgive us for this. As the DBSA, we are an accredited agent of the financing mechanisms under the UNFCCC. And under that, we do apply for funding from such facilities as the Global Environment Facilities, from the Green Climate Finance Facility, GCF, GEF. And I think we've mastered the art of accessing those funds. Where we are slow is dispersing those funds. And I'm inviting you as our partners to make sure that we grow pipelines and we fast track the disbursement of those funds. Last year alone, under the UNFCCC funding, we raised close to R1 billion. We have not drawn down a cent of that money. For me, it's the efficiency with which we conclude our agreements, Executive Mayor. And it's not just under the UNFCCC funding. It's not just under our climate and nature funding instruments where we're having the delay. It's the delays in general. I beg of you, my team knows today I've cancelled so many meetings to be here. Because if there are initiatives where we will fast-track infrastructure, I drop meetings. And I say, let's put bricks and mortar to the ground. With that said, I therefore invite you to please not just talk the engineering and the theory. Let's look at how do we finish this and make sure that we've got concepts that we can quickly take to financing, that we can quickly take to deployment. Welcome to the Development Bank of Southern Africa.
So somebody used to say to me, and probably you've had this before, that in most most cases, the challenge that we have in South Africa is it's not funding. It's as you've said, Ms. Pindele, is do we know how to access that funding? And do we have the capacity to access it? Do we know who to partner with to access that funding? Do we set time to do it? And do we spend it well? So I think the point is being made by the DBSA executive mayor and city manager to say, let's work together so that we can access whatever resources that exist, that the DBSA has to offer. I think it's a powerful message. It's probably the best way of welcoming us to say, welcome to my home. I can work with you so you can get money. So I'm going to invite the next speaker, the city manager of the city of Johannesburg, Dr. Floyd Brink. I don't know, city manager, if you remember where we met, and I have to share this. I cannot not share this slight more story. It was a few years ago. I was working for some organization that I won't mention now, and it's a brilliant organization. And one of the things that really inspired me about the city manager at that meeting was that, in his own words, he said, "We do not have a lot of time to talk. We need to start acting." He was very, very emphatic. He was excited about what was being presented, but his posture was one that inspired me, gave me a sense that we have a city manager who understands what implementations means, and that whole sense of urgency was so clear to me that made me say, okay, I think I'm at the right place, and I think I'll join this organization, and we actually did quite a bit of work. So city manager, welcome, and please over to you. Thank you. Apologies, city manager. We advise, this is my error, that you need to use that side of the podium. I think for all the speakers, I think executive mayor, MMCs, I think you please, if you don't mind, use the podium on the right.
It needed the program director's touch, right? Thank you very much, program director, and good morning to all. Let me acknowledge the MEC for Human Settlement, the Executive Mayor for the City of Johannesburg, the MMC for Human Settlements in the city, all other councillors that are present here today as well, the group executive from DBSA, colleagues from the UN Habitat, Department of Water and Sanitation, Water Research Commission, the Water Partnership Office, all our sister metros, our counterparts, all other spheres of government, our technology partners, researchers, as well as our distinguished delegates. Program Director, mine is quite simple. It's really just to narrow down in terms of opening remarks. The MMC for Human Settlements will really touch on the purpose for the 2 days, and the Executive Mayor will touch on the city's vision. My task as the accounting officer, the city manager for the city of Johannesburg, is really just to state the administration's institutional position on water, efficient sanitation, and plainly enough, accountable. But I would want to begin by first providing with at least 2 facts that we need to know that govern everything else in our space. The first is that we are at a ceiling. And when I refer to the ceiling, I'm trying to indicate to you that if you look at Rand Water, is already abstracting the limit in terms of what Department of Water and Sanitation has set in terms of that limit, and that's specifically on a temporary allocation confirmed only to the end of September. And that in itself creates pressure not just at Rand Water level, but also at the level of Joburg Water, since Rand Water is our bulk service provider. And no material new bulk water enters the integrated Vaal River system until the second phase of the Lesotho Highlands water project that will be delivered in 2028. Now, that in itself then tells you in the next 16 to 18 months, we will still have this related pressures that we will see in the system. The second part to this is that we are growing into that particular ceiling. So when you look at the demand and supply, our demand basically outstrips the supply. And that then gives us issues with regard to our own water licenses and a level of non-compliance at that particular figure. The growth that I'm referring to, by 2040, we believe that we will have about 6.5 million people or so in the city. When you look at the census for 2022, we are hovering around 5.8 million. There's some uncertainty with regard to the figures at the census 2022 and the National Treasury figures, and we are working with a number of about 5.8 million people at this point. If you look at this, you cannot look at it in isolation in terms of our housing backlog, and in that one alone, we've got a backlog of in order of 500,000 units. That talks to migration patterns, that talks to other socioeconomic issues upstream and downstream. And all of this then, in this case, will then create a pressure on our systems, whether water, whether sanitation, whether any other infrastructure related to that. So if you look at this, a fixed supply in this case, a growing population and a network losing about 45% or so from what we buy, and that's reality. And I will touch on those particular figures now as I'm moving forward. The second thing that I would want to indicate to you is that in terms of our own performance as a city, one would need to be honest in terms of our own baseline, the age infrastructure, the backlogs that we are having, migration patterns, and any other socioeconomic issues that will become drivers and will cost drivers within our system. Our non-revenue water is approximately 44.7%. In 2007, it was at around 29.4%. And this is based on the audited general figures as well as our annual report that you would have seen. And that in itself gives you a number of around 2.8 billion rand. If you look at the amount of 2.8 billion rand, that money is basically lost. And if it was there in the system, we could have then used it to reinvest in our own infrastructure. If you look at the 2025 Green Rock report, we scored, as a city, we scored 48.8%. In 2011, we scored about 91%. There are several factors related to this, and I'm sure as and when the researchers are presenting later and tomorrow, it will become clearer that we cannot plan the same way that we planned many years ago and still expect a different result. We need to look at innovative ways in how we're going to start to address some of these particular issues. When you look at some of the positions that we would need to indicate to you, I would want to then focus on the horizon in terms of the table. A sewer main has a design life of about 50 to 100 years. And a treatment works 40 to 50 years. The mechanical plant inside, 15 to 20 years. You can already see there's a disjuncture there. So any lack of maintenance and or reinvestment within your own capital infrastructure will widen the gap between what needs to be done, what needs to be maintained, and any delayed maintenance in any of your infrastructure. All of us in this auditorium would know that downstream you'll have an issue and you'll have pressure elsewhere within the system, and you'll start to have a failing system due to the pressure that you would have started to see. Yet the instruments which we are being held accountable is really linked to our annual budget cycles, our 5-year development plans, and the gap between that 5-year mandate and a 60-year asset is exactly where our problem is. So what is it that we would need to do differently? We need innovative ways. We will need to focus on sustainability. We cannot look at sustainable approaches only. We need sustainability leaders throughout the processes, because what we now need to do is to design projects for generations here to come. So those of you that are in the room, we cannot plan for the next 20 to 30 years. We should look at 50-year horizons, 80-year horizons. And when you look at my age, at least the next 30 to 40-year horizon is something that I might be pulling through The same with MNC Mabansi here. So as we are planning in terms of our age, we should be able to still deliver something. That's on a lighter note. But be managed in such a way that whatever takes over when we are no more in office, whether politically, whether administratively and otherwise, our plans must have a high level of sustainability and it should be implementable through and through, irrespective of who's in charge at an administrative level or at a political level. The city's position is quite clear. We've got 5 propositions. First, we do not regard water efficient and non-sewered sanitation as a second-class service, and we will not defend it as one. Where a certified system delivers a safe service permanently maintained outcome, it is not a holding action, it is the service. So for far too long, we know that what the poor receive while they wait for a waterborne connection, the water balance can no longer support. The second proposition is that in terms of the WESS, we will need to move into a pilot phase and into our regulatory instruments. And usually we say pilots are how institutions postpone decisions. I must indicate to you, I always tell people at the executive level within the city, the people, group exec, that are the best in terms of doing feasibility studies are those that are in the taxi association. What they do is, as and when there's a new informal settlement coming up, 1 or 2 shacks, after the second or the third day, they will send in a taxi. After the third day, if they see the taxi is full, they will now put pressure on government to say that will become a new route. They are just done with the feasibility study. They are now The third one is we need to have accountable owners in terms of what we need to do. Under the National Treasury's Metro Trading Reform Services, we are quite clear. There's no ambiguity with regard to that. It brings you to a central point of accountability, and as a city, we will continue to focus on that. But as a city, we are also open for business, and we would want to roll out the red carpet to any financiers here to form strategic partnerships, not just triple Ps, but to look at what it is that we can do to be able to fund our infrastructure. So those of you that have been counting, this is my sort of and I'm still going
strong. So it's either I'm speaking long or the batteries in this thing, it's weak. The fourth one is really that our standards are not optional. We are regulated, we're over-regulated, and highly regulated. Whether it is from a science perspective, we need to ensure that at all costs that we meet all relevant standards, all relevant revenue collection, etc. We need to get innovative ways in order for us to be able to fund our infrastructure, address maintenance, and still being able to allocate funding specifically to new projects and start to really focus on our capital programs. The city has shown that it can raise money. We're working with the African Development Bank, where we have 2.5 billion rand in terms of facilities to Johannesburg, and that's a first direct loan to subnational government in Africa. We are open for business. We would want to open up for any financiers. We are the economic hub of the country, and we wouldn't want any business to move from here to our neighboring metros and or any other provinces, but rather to work with us in order for us to focus on our own bylaws, relevant legislation, to make it lucrative for companies to remain. Program director, in closing, I must say that Tomorrow, this symposium will consider the WESS Implementation Action Plan. And for the city of Johannesburg, it's quite a big thing, and we will ensure that we participate. And let me be direct. Whatever it is that we do, we need to ensure that we plan for generations yet to come. And in closing, program director, and on a lighter note, those that have
If there's anything we need, it's alternative technology to the kinds of systems we're using now. Thank you very, very much for an incredibly strategic and long-thinking view. Thank you for taking the long view. So, and MMC Ambassador, I believe that you're bringing the vision, the long vision, as a function of your age. And so we would love to invite you, please, to join us on this side rather, so that you don't get hampered by the same technical constraints that we've encountered so far. Thank you, sir, and very welcome.
Thank you very much, Program Director. So you had not indicated whether you are program directors or the MCs. But let me extend my greetings and also appreciate this opportunity. I would like to extend my greetings to the Executive Mayor of the City of Johannesburg, the MEC of Human Settlements in the province of Gauteng, Councillor Mloyi, who's the whip of council from Sedibeng District Municipality, the city manager of the City of Johannesburg. He usually introduces himself as the president of the bureaucratic party. So when you, earlier on when the CM ascended to the podium, you had indicated that in one of the events where you both attended, you were impressed by his submission and you decided to join the organization. So I got worried because he's a president of a bureaucratic party, and as we're approaching elections, so we are not sure on whether they will be contesting or not. Let me also extend my greetings to our colleagues from DBSA and appreciate that they have opened the doors for us to host this symposium today. The HOD of Human Settlements from Gauteng, she's seated at the back, and I don't know why, because she should be sitting here at the front. And all other colleagues that are present today in this symposium, it is both an honor and privilege to be part of this important symposium on advancing innovative water efficient sanitation solution. Today marks more than the beginning of a technical conversation about sanitation system. It marks the start of a collective commitment to reimagining how we provide dignified, sustainable and resilient services to the people of Johannesburg and South Africa. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to our partners, including the Department of Water and Sanitation, the Development Bank of Southern Africa, SALGA, the Water Partnership Office, the Water Research Commission, Planact, and all other stakeholders who have come together to make this symposium possible. Your presence underscores the growing recognition that sanitation challenges facing our cities requires collaboration, innovation, and shared leadership. As the Department of Human Settlements, we are confronted a difficult reality daily, many informal settlements are located in areas where extension of conventional bulk infrastructure is either expensive, environmentally constrained, or simply unable to keep a pace with the demand. In many parts of Johannesburg, development opportunities are increasingly becoming constrained by infrastructure capacity limitation. This challenge is particularly evident in Region G, where population growth and settlement expansion continues to place considerable pressure on existing bulk water and sanitation network. The reality is that even where we have land available for development, the absence of adequate infrastructure capacity often delays housing delivery, limits upgrading opportunities, and affects our ability to provide residents with the quality of service they deserve. For decades, the dominant sanitation model in South Africa has built around waterborne sewer system. While these systems have served many communities effectively, we must acknowledge that they are not always the most practical, affordable, or sustainable solution in every context. The challenges associated with expanding traditional sewer network continues to grow. We face water scarcity, we face aging infrastructure, we face increasing infrastructure maintenance cost. The question before us is therefore not whether innovation is necessary. The question is whether we are willing to create an enabling environment needed for the innovation to succeed. Our commitment to exploring alternative and innovative sanitation solutions is not merely a response to current challenges. It is firmly grounded in the policy framework that the City of Johannesburg has deliberately developed. The city's revised sanitation policy was developed precisely because the previous 2002 policy had become outdated and was no longer adequately responding to current realities. The revised policy aligned with the national policy framework and place sustainability, innovation, resource efficiency, and inclusivity at the center of sanitation planning and implementation. The policy further acknowledged that the sanitation planning must be integrated with broader human settlements development, infrastructure planning, and housing delivery programs. It requires coordination between Johannesburg Water, the Department of Human Settlements, the Department of Planning, Environmental Health, and other municipal departments to ensure a more integrated approach to service delivery. Of particular importance for this symposium in the city's policy position on research and innovation in sanitation service, the policy explicitly promotes innovative sanitation research and encourages sustainable sanitation solutions and minimize environmental impact. It also encourages collaborative partnership between the municipalities, researchers, communities, and the private sector to advance sanitation innovation. The policy also represents a significant shift in how the cities approach levels of service, rather than relying exclusively on conventional sewer system. It recognizes a range of sanitation technology and services level that may be appropriate depending on the local conditions and constraints. It creates an important policy platform for the consideration of innovative, decentralized, and water-efficient sanitation system in areas where conventional infrastructure may not be immediately visible. This symposium is therefore not about debating whether innovative sanitation solutions have a place in Johannesburg. Our policies already recognize their importance. Innovative and water-efficient sanitation solutions offer a significant opportunity to address some of the most pressing challenges facing Johannesburg today. Importantly, innovative sanitation solutions should be viewed as an inferior alternative to conventional systems. Rather, we should be understood as part of a broader toolbox of service delivery options that can be applied appropriately to different settlement contexts. We must move from asking which single technology should we use to ask which solution is most appropriate for this particular community, environment, and infrastructure realities. That shift in thinking is fundamental to Sanitation cannot be separated from the broader objective of building inclusive, sustainable, and livelihood communities. A settlement cannot be considered sustainable if residents lack access to safe and reliable sanitation. Likewise, a housing project cannot be considered successful if infrastructure constraints prevent communities from enjoying the full benefit of urban life. This is why innovative sanitation solutions must be integrated into our broader human settlements agenda. They must become part of how we plan informal settlements upgrade. They must become part of how we unlock development opportunities. And they must become part of how we future-proof Johannesburg against climate and infrastructure risk. No single institution can solve these challenges alone. The scale and the complexity of Johannesburg sanitation challenges requires a collective effort involving all spheres of government, municipalities, utilities, research institutions, development partnership, communities, civil society organizations, the private sector, and the financial institutions. This symposium demonstrates the power of partnership. Over the next 2 days, we will hear from policymakers, researchers, municipalities, financial institutions, innovators, and community organizations together with global experts. We will examine the successful pilot project. We will discuss regulatory and policy reforms. We will explore funding mechanism. I think city manager will appreciate that. We will consider technology validation and standards. And most importantly, we will identify practical pathways for scaling solutions that work. One of the recurring challenges in the sanitation sector is that many innovative solutions remain trapped in the pilot phase. We have accumulated valuable lessons from demonstrating projects across the country. Innovation alone is not enough. Innovation must be supported by governance, financing, partnership, and implementation capacity. As we begin this symposium, I encourage all participants to approach this discussion with openness, honesty, and ambition. Let us use this platform to challenge traditional assumptions. Let us share lessons from both successes and failures, and most importantly, let us develop practical action that can translate discussions into implementation. Let the residents of Johannesburg, are not waiting for another report. They are waiting for solutions. The sanitation challenges facing Johannesburg are significant, but they are not undefeatable. Partnership and commitment required to take us forward. Let us work together to create a sanitation future that is inclusive, resilient, innovative, and sustainable. Thank you very much, MC Program Director.
MMC, that was absolutely incredible. Can I ask that we give the MMC another round of applause, please? You did not only tell us why we are here, you told us what the challenges are in this space, MMC. You went further and told us that you do have a policy that you've reviewed. You gave us a taste of what the policy is about, which is absolutely brilliant. I think the word integration there, it comes across quite strongly. And then you've challenged us there to say the whole thing of smart thinking, smart solutions is no longer an option. Let's go out there and do it. You told us that we are going to engage in pilots. In other words, approaches, practices that think you were saying to us, let's use those pilots to upscale, to actually do more from them, to learn from them so we can actually roll out the implementation. So I think it was really a fantastic contribution, MMC, that set a great tone. I'm going to call on the executive mayor of the city of Johannesburg to come and literally take, I think, the MMC's framing to a level where it talks to the long-term vision and that the city of Johannesburg requires in order to deal with the sanitation crisis, policy and regulatory frameworks that the city has. I just need to make sure that I'm ready for the words. Yes, effectively, it's Executive Mayor. We are calling you to talk to us about that long-term vision that the city has set in place in terms of where we want to go, but also in terms of the priorities that the city will be looking at in as far as the challenges that the city is facing. So, colleagues, can I ask that we please welcome the Executive Mayor as he comes up to give us his address.
Directors for this morning's session, and of course the MEC of Human Settlement, the Honorable Mutara, good morning, and the MMC of Human Settlement, Councillor Mabaso. The Deputy Director General of Water and Sanitation, I hope Ukona. Okay. How are you, Deputy Director General? The Development Bank of South Africa, the Group Executive for Programs, SALGA Chairperson of the Sanitation Committee, Councillor Fatima Moloi, and our City Manager, Dr. Floyd Brink. So we used to, when we were in primary school, and they said, Fatima Moloi, we like, as children, those who know what Moloi means will understand what these children were to go through. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity to greet you this morning in this session, the symposium, where we are looking at the challenges that we have around sanitation and generally water infrastructure and water supply in our province. And let me take this opportunity to thank Councillor Mabaso for having convened this symposium, which I think it's an important intervention to continue to allow ourselves as Joburgers, as South Africans, to constantly be in conversations to find solutions to the challenges that we are faced with as we continue to develop the world becomes sustainable, which is you will be making commitments that no, we'll build that thing with our own money, and you will see us later. Now, it is also important to note that Johannesburg currently accounts for just around 12,000 kilometers of sewer within Johannesburg. I normally say if you try to simplify it, it takes you 600 kilometers from here to Durban. So to then understand the magnitude of our network on sewer, then you'd understand how big it is. and we need to carry this infrastructure. And with the current growth that is not even controlled, it means this infrastructure has to double. We are also projecting that just around in the next 10 years, Johannesburg will probably be sitting at about 7 million people. We are currently sitting at 5.8, debatable. Some of us still say we're at 6 million. In the next 10 years, we'll be 7 million or more. I'm not sure, I nearly said something I should not have say. Unless I was from Durban, I would have said it, but I'm a Joburg. And we also account for about 38 pump stations and 6 wastewater treatment plants in Johannesburg. So it is important that we understand the magnitude of the infrastructure that we're talking about today. I do know that the Minister of Water and Sanitation continues to argue that sanitation is actually dignity. And we need to understand it from that context for us to take this matter quite seriously and invest in sanitation and do everything else we can to ensure that we've got proper sanitation, not only in urban areas, but throughout the Republic of South Africa. I normally go to Bergville, a rural area in KwaZulu-Natal, my mother's hometown, and I do battle when I have to do certain things. And that demonstrates that those that have to go through that on a day-to-day basis, what impact does it have on them, and what are we doing as a country to turn around that situation? I'm not going to be long program director, but to indicate that part of what Johannesburg is beginning to try and do is to raise money in the capital market. Because we are alive to the fact that with our own resources and our own money, we'll not be able to make timeless interventions into infrastructure. And that is why last year we started the process of engaging the Development Bank of South Africa. The first meeting happened here in one of their boardrooms with their CEO and her team. And when we were looking at Johannesburg and say, we need an intervention, and the only way we can intervene is to go and raise money in the capital market. We allowed Joburg Water to do a bit of a report and a research of what we need, and we were convinced that at least annually we need an investment of about 3 billion rands into the infrastructure, but the city could only afford at that particular stage just around 1.3 billion on an annual basis, which meant we'll not have the sufficient resources to intervene at least within a 10-year period, which then meant we need to develop a 10-year program to invest in infrastructure, both sewer and of course water in the form of pipes, reservoirs, etc., etc. Now we then went out and we are now at the stage where we are almost closing the deal at 12 billion to 13 billion rands that will then invest into our capital infrastructure. So we are doing quite well. We just hope quite soon we'll be signing. So every day I talk to the group CFO and the CFO at Joburg Water that my term is ending on the 4th of November. I want to sign before I leave. Can you move quicker? So that at least there's a legacy that one will leave behind. No, you see that water and sewer thing, I signed for that money. Except that that signing also means that the city has a responsibility to ensure that we protect the revenue of the city. We continue to raise the revenue, ensure our revenue collections are at the level at which we are able to service the debt. We're also able to maintain the infrastructure moving forward. There's no point in deploying 13 billion, but you're not deploying sufficient resources to maintain that infrastructure. So we're at that stage where we think we will do right. We did very well in 2025, 2026. For the first time, we're able to push the maintenance budget of the city from 4% to at least just around 7%, which it was a significant jump. We are pushing it to 8% in this year as we passed our budget in May, of course with an ambition to push it further next year to about 9%, which is to be then even more than the national average or the requirements by National Treasury on infrastructure maintenance. If you can just sit at 9%, it will be good. It will demonstrate that we are serious about the infrastructure. Unfortunately, when we started in 1996 with local government, part of what we had to do was to deal with redress, and we rushed into building new infrastructure projects, and in the process we did not invest sufficiently into maintenance, and I think we are now alive to that fact, and we've made mistakes, and I suppose when we've made mistakes we are given an opportunity to correct those mistakes, and we have now corrected those mistakes and putting enough money into infrastructure. Now, what is it that business must help us with? We're unable to provide a proper sanitation and water reticulation in the south of Johannesburg. I think you are aware, over time, the south of Johannesburg has been developing with formal settlements, and of course the wastewater treatment plant in the Vaal does no longer have sufficient capacity to handle the affluent from Johannesburg. You know, when it collapsed last year, last year, I went to the Vaal and I said, look at what Joburg people are doing to the Vaal. Because it's not a Vaal problem, it's our problem. And we then need an intervention first to deal with that wastewater treatment plant in the Vaal, invest the necessary resources, because Johannesburg is growing. And the growth of Johannesburg is not going to stop any time. We are an urban area, we're a metropolitan city, and everyone who comes from outside of Johannesburg wants to be in Johannesburg. I think you saw the series by the Zuma's daughters called The Polygamist. And you'll see that all the wives of Jonas, they all wanted to stay in Johannesburg. So everybody wants to be in Johannesburg. So what it means in simple terms is that everybody wants to be in Johannesburg. And once that continues to be the narrative, it means we have to invest in bulk infrastructure. We have to invest in maintenance of infrastructure. So Joburg Board are probably in their presentation today, I hope they will present a challenge we have in the Deep South. And we have to resolve to that situation. And we don't just need money, we also need innovative technologies, because we don't have the money to do a full-scale reticulation, which means what are those new technologies that are there to help us deal with the population in the Deep South, which is just under 60,000. So it's not a big population that we're talking about. We must find alternative innovation technologies to help us deal with the problem, whilst the city is raising capital to invest into proper reticulation in that area. We have decided to do what is called ring-fencing of the revenue of Joburg Water. We have onboarded Joburg Water on the 1st of July at the 70-30 split, and the city will then retain the 30% of the revenue for us to still be able to support the non-revenue departments in the city. So that's what we are doing, and it's looking good. It has actually helped us to be able to crack the conditions that the DBSA had put on us. Because part of the condition was that ring-fence the revenue of water, we will raise the capital on your behalf. So we have done that. They have no excuse now. They must then deliver the resources that we require, and it's 13 billion. I want to sign before the 4th of November. Now, this is what we have been able to do, and working together with our teams and our management team, the finance team, we think we're making the necessary inroads to change the narrative in Johannesburg. It can't be that Johannesburg continue to experience more than 10,000 pests on a monthly basis. It can't. We therefore have to invest, put the right money, and change the technology. Some of the technology in our pipes is old technology. It can no longer deal with the situation. You can't patch it. You just have to replace. So that is why we are going out to raise this money, but we also need innovation from yourselves so that we can deal with better technologies. On a lighter note, we are also doing waste to energy, which I think is an important project for ourselves as the private sector. To be aware, Joburg is undertaking, for the first time we've been able to raise just around 1.6 billion from the infrastructure fund in a form of a grant. We've also raised another 500 million from the Netherlands government in a form of a grant, and the city is matching that with another 400 million to give it a total of just around, I did biblical studies, city management. It gives us just around 2.3 billion. Don't worry about my bips. Those who were at high school in the townships, you knew that the easier way to get to matric was to choose bips, woodwork, history. Then you will get to matric, and you will see when you get to matric. So I'm one of those students, but I now have 2 masters, and I'm now going for my PhD. Possibly I'll be accepted, so that I become relevant in local government. Even beyond political leadership. So that is where we are, ladies and gentlemen, as the city of Johannesburg, and I hope this symposium will be able to provide the necessary solutions to help us really build this city of ours, which when you drive around this city, you realize that this city remains beautiful. All what we have to do is to sort out the small things. Let the waste be collected on the day we said we'll collect it without any excuse. Let the water flow in our taps. Let the lights be on so that your daily experience as residents of Johannesburg should be good. Let there be no potholes to disturb you. So when you're working on Sunday, there were not potholes. There was the 702 walk. Because we made sure that the entire area there's no potholes. Now the challenge is to make sure that the entire 15,000 kilometers of road networks, we don't have potholes. But we can't do that if all of us, with the private sector, we work together, we can achieve that. Johannesburg remains your city, invest in it, don't leave, don't give up. Because if you want to give up, the only place you may want to go to is Cape Town, but you'll then be competing with the euro, the pound, and at least here we are competing rent to rent. There's no other currency, so you are likely to survive and make more money in Johannesburg than in Cape Town. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck for Symposium.
Thank you, Mr. Executive Mayor, for both an inspiring and a sobering input. Thank you for keeping it real. I have the real pleasure now of introducing to you our chairperson and PEC member of the South African Local Governments Association, the chairperson of Municipal Capability and Institutional Resilience, who's going to speak to you about local government's commitment to innovative sanitation. And welcome on board.
Thank you so much. Executive Mayor, I promise that I did not have anything to do with that mic working. Because you mentioned something about my surname. You will need to explain, Yeah. both, because I'm from the Val. So everything, all the resources that come from here, your problems are there in the Val. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, program directors, Honorable MEC, Tasneem Mutala, popularly known as the Roti Queen, Executive Mayor, Ndate Dada Morero, MMC, Ndate Mabaso. Councillor Morero and Councillor Mabaso went to all lengths with introducing everybody and acknowledging. Could I then respectfully say that with all the acknowledgements, everybody, I greet you. Good morning. Yes. Yeah. Distinguished delegates, colleagues and partners, today is an important milestone for local government. Not because we are introducing a new sanitation technology, but because we are bringing together everyone who has a role in creating the conditions for municipalities to deliver better sanitation services. Safe sanitation is at the heart of the rights to human dignity, health, a safe environment, and education for all. It reduces the diarrheal diseases that kill young children. It leads to fivefold economic returns in reduced health costs and increased productivity. It offers secular economic opportunities in compost for food security, and it can generate energy. It increases school attendance for girls during their menstrual cycle, and it reduces water pollution and protects vital ecosystems. And yet sanitation is often too invisible, out of sight, out of mind. It receives attention when wastewater treatment works fails, when rivers are polluted. Our communities protest because their dignity has been compromised. It's when that sanitation becomes visible. Yet every South African experiences the consequences when sanitation systems fail, through polluted water, preventable diseases, environmental degradation, and lost economic opportunities. Municipalities understand these realities, and we are committed to making sanitation a political priority. At SALGA, we start from one simple principle, which is municipalities carry the constitutional responsibility for sanitation service delivery. Whether services are provided through conventional sewage system, on-site sanitation, or water-efficient sanitation technologies, municipalities remain accountable for ensuring that every single resident receives a safe, reliable, and dignified sanitation service. The question before us is therefore not simply which technology works best. The question is, how do we equip municipalities to make the decisions, the right decisions for the right communities under increasingly difficult conditions? Our municipalities face enormous pressures, including rapid urbanization and growing informal settlements, water scarcity and climate change, aging infrastructure, and constrained municipal finances. No municipality can respond to these realities using yesterday's solutions. Innovation is essential to widen our toolbox from conventional sanitation on one hand and on-site sanitation on the other hand. This is not an either-or discussion. It is about giving municipalities a wide range of tools to meet their constitutional mandate. Every municipality is different. Every municipality is made up of vastly different settlement types requiring different sanitation responses. We need to plan, finance, regulate, and ensure dignified sanitation services using technologies across a spectrum of options that fit different contexts, from conventional sewage to decentralized systems to safely managed on-site sanitation. Good governance means bringing together a mix of appropriate options across our municipal jurisdictions. But technology and innovation alone will not solve our challenges. What municipalities repeatedly tell us at SALGA is that they need an enabling environment to make the right sanitation options are best fit for different contexts across their jurisdiction, to determine the tariffs and revenue models, and to allocate funding. They need to the real operations and maintenance cost implications across the sanitation service chain are, to decide on institutional arrangements and put partnerships in place. They need to know about delivery models that meet procurement and contracting master. To regulate locally and update their water services, policies and bylaws, they need to know accepted classifications and standards. They need financing mechanisms that recognize sanitation as a service, not simply as infrastructure. And they need to ensure that communities are part of the decisions and the solutions. These are governance questions. These are implementation questions. And these are precisely the issues that SALGA focuses on in all our working groups. Our councillor induction, in our IGR partnerships with sector departments, and in partnership with you. These questions, like the mandate of local government, go beyond the water and sanitation sector. It is significant that we have with us today departments of human settlements, health and education, the enabling environment we need to create and strengthen for sustainable, affordable, and equitable water and sanitation cuts across these sectors, especially because it is urgent that we transform the spatial form of our cities and municipalities and economically empower our communities. The encouraging news is that we are not starting from scratch. Research institutions have developed innovative technologies. Civil society is active in and across these sectors. Municipal pilot projects have generated valuable lessons. The Department of Water and Sanitation has advanced the regulations, plans, benchmarks, and strategies. The Water Partnerships Office is exploring new financing and partnership models. Our challenge now is to connect these efforts into a coherent municipal implementation pathway. That is why this symposium is so significant. We at SALGA believe that sanitation must be understood as a service, not simply as infrastructure. Building toilets is only one part of the sanitation chain. Municipalities remain responsible for planning, operation, maintenance, emptying, transport, treatment, safe disposal or reuse, community engagement, and long-term sustainability. It is these governance questions that will ultimately determine whether innovation succeeds or fails. Over the next 2 days, we should challenge ourselves to move beyond showcasing innovation. We should ask, what policy reforms are still needed? What standards are still missing? How do we finance implementation at a scale? How do we strengthen municipal capacity? How do we move from successful pilots to sustainable municipal programs? If we leave this symposium with answers to these questions, we will have made a meaningful contribution to improving sanitation services in Gauteng and across South Africa. SALGA welcomes the collaboration between the City of Johannesburg, the Department of Water and Sanitation, the DBSA, the Water Research Commission, the Water Partnerships Office, the academia, civil society, development partners, and the private sector in convening this symposium. Our collective objective is not simply to showcase technologies, but to identify practical pathways for scaling sustainable sanitation solutions, strengthening policy and regulatory frameworks, and promoting community-centered approaches. As local government, we welcome innovation, but innovation must strengthen municipalities, not create new unfunded mandates. It must improve service delivery, not increase complexity. And it must empower municipalities to make informed decisions based on local realities, not impose one-size-fits-all solutions. As we engage over the next 2 days, SALGA hopes that this symposium will move us beyond pilots and demonstrations towards practical implementation. We hope it produces clearer policy direction, stronger partnership, better financing mechanisms, and actionable recommendations that municipalities can apply across different sectors, because ultimately our success will be measured by the number of communities whose dignity, health, and quality of life improve because municipalities were empowered to make decisions, and better decisions at that. That is the challenge before us. And that is the partnership we must build together. Ke a leboha.
Thank you so much, Councillor Mloy. I think for me, what really stood out, Councillor, is that you've reminded us of the human element to the challenge that we're dealing with as far as sanitation is concerned. And sometimes I think we can easily forget that. I like the fact that you even mentioned schools and kids. That whole aspect of human dignity is absolutely critical in how we respond to the challenges that we're facing. There's a part in your speech, Councillor, where you mentioned the notion of making communities part of the solutions that we are generating. I think that is so critical, especially in the day and age in South Africa where that spirit of community activism is coming back. I think making sure that communities co-own and are part of co-creating these solutions is absolutely fantastic. The last point that you mentioned that stood out for me is yes, the fact that we need to work with research institutions in looking what they innovate, what in the innovations you actually challenged us to say, piloting is not good enough. We've got to go beyond piloting because we can't be piloting forever. We need to go beyond that. One of the advantages that we have in the work that we do is we engage with other colleagues in other parts of the continent. We learn about how much they look to South Africa because they believe that we have got all these amazing, incredible ideas, solutions, and policies. So I think that there's another opportunity that we might need to actually leverage in working with other global institutions. As I introduce the MEC to give us a keynote, MEC, I think one of the things that's coming through for me is the whole concept of support to cities. I've found that a lot of times it's easy for us to really come hard to our municipalities without really being clear on what is the support that we are providing as provincial government, as national government, as entities? And yet we talk about intergovernmental planning, intergovernmental relations, and we don't understand that the root, at the heart of all of this is how are we as provinces, as research institutions, are providing meaningful support to our cities. I'm not sure, they refuse to share a speech with me, MEC, but I'm sure you'll touch on the issues of support, but let me just invite you to the podium, MEC. I know that we are going to meet at another event that I don't know if your office has told you about. I'm in trouble with my boss at the back. We're going to the Innovator South Africa office on the 18th, on the 14th of August. So we look forward to engaging with you there, but to let me know, let's please welcome the MEC. Let's just go.
Thank you so much, Program Director. MC, I must speak to my office. They do things without my knowledge, so I must just have a word with them. But thank you so much, Executive President in Joburg. But I work like almost probably 75% of residents of Gauteng work in Joburg. Our thoughts on a very important conversation. I don't know if I must call you Chief Whip or SALGA Rep, but Councillor Mamuali Monoi, thank you so much. And I think the question about municipalities and funded mandates, but the funding model of municipalities over and above all its other institutional challenges, historic as well as capacity, administrative and technical, is a very important aspect that you raise. The city manager of the city of Joburg, I always wonder how public servants become PhD graduates. It takes a lot of time. So where do you get the time if you are a city manager and you have been an executive manager of municipalities for a very long time? But Dr. Brink, thank you so much for your input. To the colleagues from the DBSA, our colleagues from the national departments who are here, the colleagues from the provincial departments, various provincial departments who have also joined us, colleagues from other partners as well as civil society, academia, the industry as a whole, the business partners, development partners, especially the finance development partners. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. Good morning to all of you. And I really hope that we'll have exactly what Councillor Moloi was speaking about, tangible outcomes from the symposium. But one observation does stand out as I listen to all the inputs, is that the way we think about development is changing. And that's going to steer us in the right direction as we go forward to look for solutions to all our current challenges. I'm sure when the current infrastructure plans were developed and rolled out, it was exactly to look at the same challenges that we have today. It was about increasing populations at the time. It was about immigration. It was about creating conducive environments for personal, communal, but also societal development. Those challenges have not changed. We still have to look at immigration, obviously at a grander scale. We still have to look at the right type of infrastructure, obviously developing it and delivering it much quicker than the traditional methods. And a big issue for municipalities is always value for money. There was a time when housing, water, sanitation, transport, and environmental planning was also treated as separate disciplines. Each had its own policies, institutions, and implementation phases. Each had its own way of doing things. Increasingly, that way of thinking is becoming inadequate. The challenges that face our cities no longer fit neatly into departmental mandates. The program director spoke about intergovernmental relations and support, and that's exactly the point. Population growth affects housing demand. Housing demand places pressure on infrastructure. Infrastructure depends on reliable water systems. Water security is influenced by climate change, environmental management, and the way our cities continue to expand. These issues are interconnected. I always say if my grandmother were to, either one of my grandmothers were to wake up from their graves, they would not be able to or recognize the kind of environments that we stay in. We've had a fairly warm winter. Last year we had a very wet summer in Johannesburg, which is very abnormal for us. But as government, our planning must become equally connected. That's why today's discussion matters. Water-efficient sanitation solutions are not simply about introducing different sanitation technologies. They reflect a broader shift in how we think about planning, infrastructure, and the future of our communities. Within the human settlement sector, we have deliberately moved away from measuring success purely by the number of housing opportunities delivered. Homes matter, but homes on their own do not create communities. A successful human settlement is one where infrastructure functions reliably, where public services support everyday life, where residents can access economic opportunities, and where the built environment contributes to people's health, safety, and well-being. Sanitation forms part of that foundation. It is one of the services that is often only noticed when it fails. Yet its influence extends far beyond the infrastructure itself. It shapes public health outcomes, environmental quality, water security, and ultimately the dignity with which people experience the places that they call home. That's why sanitation cannot be treated as something that follows development. It has to be considered as part of development itself. Every province, and by extension every municipality, every city, every town, faces its own set of development pressures. In Gauteng, those pressures are intensified by the pace at which our province continues to grow. People come here because Gauteng remains a place of opportunity. That is something we value, but it also means that demand for housing, infrastructure, and services continues to increase. Just 2 weeks ago, I was having a conversation with the mayor of Midvaal, who was saying because of their drive for economic development and economic expansion, they are facing a phenomenon that they didn't think they would, which is in-migration to the Midvaal. The challenge for government is definitely not just only about responding to growth, but the challenge is ensuring that growth continues to be sustainable. That requires us to think differently about the infrastructure we invest in today. Water resources are under increasing pressure. This is something that we know. Climate variability is influencing how infrastructure performs. It's also something that we know. And we know that municipalities are balancing the need to maintain aging systems while extending services to expanding communities. None of these realities are temporary. They require a planning approach that looks beyond immediate delivery targets and begins asking what kind of infrastructure will still be fit for purpose 20 or 30 years from now, echoing the sentiments of the city manager. But I think even 30 years may not be enough. In forward-thinking countries, they plan for 100 years. So I think even planning for 100 years is definitely possible. From Gauteng's perspective, the value of water-efficient sanitation solutions lies in the choices they make available to planners and implementing authorities. Innovation broadens the conversation. It encourages us to recognize that different communities face different circumstances and that infrastructure planning should respond accordingly. An established urban precinct, a rapidly growing informal settlement, a new catalytic development, and a rural settlement may each require different approaches, and Gauteng is unique in that it has all of those features. We have informal settlements, we have catalytic developments, we have rural settlements, we have everything in this beautiful province of ours. So good planning acknowledges those differences rather than assuming that a single solution can address every context. That flexibility becomes increasingly important as the province works to deliver integrated human settlements while responding to changing environmental and economic conditions. Our objective remains constant. Communities must have access to safe, reliable, and dignified sanitation. Innovation simply strengthens government's ability to determine the most appropriate pathway towards achieving the outcome. Government has an important responsibility when conversations about innovation take place. Our role is neither to resist new ideas nor to adopt them uncritically. Our responsibility is to create an environment where innovation can be tested, evaluated, and applied in ways that serve the public interest. Every innovation should ultimately improve the way government delivers services. That means asking practical questions. How does it perform over time? What does it cost to maintain? Can municipalities support it? Does it respond to local conditions? And how easily can communities use it? These considerations matter because public infrastructure must continue functioning long after pilot projects, and every one of us have spoken about pilot projects. Long after the pilot projects have concluded and conferences have ended. Innovation earns public confidence when it consistently delivers better outcomes. Resilience has become one of the defining concepts in urban development. For Gauteng, resilience is not only about responding to crises, it's about ensuring that communities can continue functioning despite changing environmental, economic, and demographic conditions. That principle applies equally to sanitation. As pressures on water resources increase, the province has a responsibility to explore solutions that strengthen long-term sustainability while protecting the quality of services available to residents. Mayor, listening to your stats, you just have a lot of poo in Johannesburg. So what do we do with it? You were speaking about kilometers and kilometers, so that is the biggest problem. And is there value in it? And those with innovation and those who think innovatively believe that there is value in every single aspect of human life. Resilient infrastructure is rarely the product of one innovation. It's the result of careful planning, informed investment, and institutions that are prepared to adapt as circumstances change. So water-efficient sanitation solutions contribute to that broader objective. This conversation also is particularly relevant as Gauteng continues its work to upgrade informal settlements and expand access to adequate housing. Our province remains committed to delivering integrated and permanent human settlements. However, the realities on the ground are often complex. Infrastructure expansion takes time, communities continue to grow, municipal systems experience varying levels of capacity. Within those realities, innovation provides additional options that can support implementation while maintaining the focus on dignity and sustainability. What matters is that every intervention forms part of a longer-term development pathway rather than becoming a temporary solution without a clear future. That distinction is important. Innovation should strengthen planning rather than replace it. I can't stress enough about the importance of evidence. And one of the most encouraging aspects of today's symposium is the diversity of expertise represented in this room. We have researchers, we have engineers, we have municipalities, we have policymakers, we have practitioners, and they all bring a different perspective. That diversity matters because the strongest public policy is rarely developed in isolation. Evidence gives government confidence to make better decisions. Research helps us understand what works, where it works, and why. Practical experience reminds us that implementation is often more complex than policy design, and that the relationship between government and institutions such as universities, research councils, and industry therefore becomes increasingly important as we consider the future of sanitation. Innovation should always be informed by evidence and refined through experience, although this must not make us risk averse. I think government also, our biggest Achilles heel is that we are risk averse. If we're not 100% sure of what it is that you're doing, we tend to fall back to what we know, traditional methods, because those are tried and tested, and we are just afraid to take the leap of faith and do something that is new, that is that may look like it works, but can only be tested if we do use it. No single institution will solve South Africa's sanitation challenges on its own. National government provides policy direction, municipalities remain at the forefront of implementation, research institutions continue expanding knowledge, and the industry develops technologies. Development finance institutions create opportunities for investment. Provincial government has an equally important role. We bring together these different parts of the system, ensuring that planning remains aligned with broader development priorities and that innovation contributes meaningfully to communities we are working to build. That collaborative approach will become increasingly important as development challenges grow more complex. As I conclude, I want to indicate that one of the defining characteristics of good government is the ability to prepare for challenges before they become crises. And I think, unfortunately, we have entered into a space where we are firefighting. We're just responding to crises after crises. So we've got to change our approach and respond and prepare for challenges. That this will require us to look beyond immediate delivery and consider the long-term consequences of the choices we make today. Communities that we are planning for now will still be home to families decades from now. The infrastructure we approve today will shape how those communities function for years to come. That places a responsibility on all of us to ensure that innovation is approached thoughtfully, supported by evidence and guided by a clear understanding of the outcomes we hope to achieve. For Gauteng, water-efficient sanitation solutions are part of a broader conversation about the future of human settlements. They represent an opportunity to strengthen resilience, improve sustainability, and expand the options available to government as we continue building communities that are better prepared for the demands of a changing world. Thank you very much.
MEC, thank you so much. I think that was really a fitting keynote address. Colleagues, can I ask you to join me in just giving MEC another round of applause? You know, Sislumi, if I were to theme the symposium, I would have stolen MEC's quote, and that says, prepare for challenges before they become a crisis. I think that was really, really on point, because I think if we adopt that mentality as government, but also as partners generally in South Africa, I think we would really go far. I thought that was really powerful, MEC. I think the other point that you made that stood out for me, and I don't know if you realize how powerful it was, is the fact that the solutions to the challenge that we're facing do no longer fit with the sector mandates of departments. In other words, I can't say that I'm the Department of Water, so I just focus on my mandate. I am the Department of Transport, I only focus on transport. We have got to start thinking differently. It really is, I think, a way of thinking that challenges how we work as government or how government operates. Because oftentimes, I think we forget that we go back into our silos. Especially when it's challenging, we just go back to that familiar space that we know. I like the fact that you emphasized the importance of agility, flexibility, and customization. I think that way of thinking as well for me is very important because different communities differ. I mean, that rapid increase of informal settlements. If you go into the CBD of Johannesburg, those abandoned buildings, those still old buildings, that's a form of informality. It's different from the one that you find on the periphery of any city, for that matter. So I thought it was absolutely a fantastic MSc. Colleagues, we've pretty much reached the end of the first part of the symposium in the morning. For our own sins, we've been given a number of instructions by the organizers. Some I'm going to read because I need to be a good program director in MMC Mabaso. I think the mayor declared it to be a program directors. So the first, I think, announcement, colleagues, that I'm going to make fairly quickly is one that in case you get up to something that you shouldn't, please note that there is what they call it an operation center where there's security. And there's basically EMS services in case you need assistance. Please note that exists to support you. And then I think immediately when we finish here, the delegates, the mayor and the VIPs are going to be ushered to the exhibition space. So please follow Sister Lisa. I'm sure I'll usher you there, so that I think it'll be the official opening of the exhibition space. Okay, that's the second announcement. The last one, this has to do with the powers that the mayor has given us as program directors. We're running out of time, so we're asking that we please shorten the tea break with 10 minutes. So we are now sitting at 11:35. So can we please be back here at 11:50? Is that right? No, 11:45. 11:45. So please, let's be back seated at 11:45, and then we're going to try as much as we can to fast track the next segment so that we can catch up on time. Tea served, Lulu will usher us in the exhibition area. See you at 11:45 sharp. Thank you very much.